Welcome to Rules of Villainy, episode 26, where three new trading card game players quest and challenge their way to the competitive top tables and discuss their opinions on Disney's Lorcana. This week, we'll discuss the latest news in Lorcana, answer your questions, and discuss the latest developments in the metagame. I'm Villain Vince, joined as always by my two co-hosts, Villain Andy and the mayor of Lorcana, Brad. How's it going tonight, gentlemen?
Good.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's crazy. It's 2025 already?
It is 2025, although I won't recognize that for a while because I will still put 24 on all dates for the next
on your
month.
Personal checks that you still write. Like, where are you writing
one
dates?
Check a month.
Yeah.
One check a month.
Man, you guys
but
hear
yeah,
that though?
What?
Do you hear that sound?
No, I don't hear it.
I think it's a train. I think it might be the BLURPLE train, baby. 2025 and the BLURPLE train is taking off. Let's go.
All aboard!
We'll get into it a little bit later about why that may or may not be the case in Lorcana. But first, we're going to get into Underworld news. So, as Brad said, wishing everybody a happy new year. It is January 1st, 2025, which means you can now join the D23 fan club and get the special Iago promo card. So we're all joining, right? That's the end game here?
Pretty sure Emily won't be opposed to signing up for that.
Well, I mean, what's $50 for one promo card when you've already spent $30 on Moana?
How dare you, sir? How dare you? What is she going for now? Actually, don't tell me. I don't want to know.
For the
50
audience
cents.
listening, $4. $4.
Oh no! I thought that was a good deal in comparison, but no, it seems like there's a lot of cool stuff on there, and I think that with Emily, who if you guys have paid attention or watched our previous content over the holiday season, we introduced her on our holiday episode, and she's got a TikTok where she opens a lot of exclusive pins, and it was just brought to my attention that there's a pin set in that D23 subscription as well. So seems like it's a no-brainer. We both win there.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Although they really get you on shipping, apparently.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think that's a little bit of a setup, Vince. Are we going to get it when you know very well that when my wife read D23 goes live today in the show notes that we have, she came running in and said, "You need to buy this right now." Vince did point out, I don't think they sell out. It seems, or they at least haven't yet. A couple hours into the day, so. But no, I did purchase it. I'm excited to get the card and the pin set because it's pretty fancy, and all the other perks are pretty cool too. Like I said, a digital subscription, like a magazine kind of thing, right? So it'd be cool to read some of those. Maybe they'll have something in there about Lorcana.
That's what I was wondering, if they were going to go in, like, put more Lorcana content into their packages like that. I would, love to see that.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. So, and Brad, right before we started this podcast, was like, "You should give me trouble for the Moana card," and I wasn't going to, but it so segued perfectly into it that I was like, why not? But speaking though of Emily and her TikTok channel, she hit a pretty big milestone in the past few days.
Yeah, she's at 1,000 followers now, and I think just a little over a month. And we posted a goofy video on that today that wasn't Disney related at all. That's just blew up because it was so goofy. But yeah, she's doing great. Anybody who watched this and went and followed her, thank you. She appreciates it so much. And yeah, I think TikTok is proven to be just a fun platform for short form content that maybe some villains might explore in the near future. I don't know.
Well, we'll see. I'm still making sure that TikTok doesn't go the way of the dodo, if you will.
Also true. Yeah.
So we'll keep in.
What kind of content
there.
was it, Brad?
I know Kirsten saw it.
The video you said you made?
Yeah, we threw a Christmas tree off of our balcony. No, not goofy like Disney, like goofy as in
for the It was a very peepo video that you made?
Sorry. Now I'm all caught up.
We don't recognize
give me a break. We've been
on
off
this podcast. All right, it is people.
We've been off for 2 weeks, and I'm still getting in the hang of the rhythm of the show. So But yeah.
Yeah, send your Peepo cards if you're from an Italian viewer to our non-existent PO box. But with that, speaking of like kind of continental type stuff, we've got the North American Continentals coming up next week. Can you believe it? So by the time this goes live, you're hearing this on Friday, a week basically from now, people will be gathering in Anaheim at Disneyland, getting ready for the last chance qualifiers, right? Like that starts, I think
Friday,
the
I
event
believe.
starts on Friday. Yeah.
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 LCQs are Friday, and so I don't think do they broadcast those? I don't think they broadcast those.
I don't
the
remember.
I don't
LCQs.
think they don't.
I don't think
I
they
don't-
did for EU. So
But they may for
It'd be
North
cool
America.
if they did.
We don't know.
Yeah.
it'd be
Let's
neat
get Ron on one of those streams.
for sure. But
Yeah.
We're gonna see Ron on the mainstream.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are,
Hey,
baby.
absolutely. But yeah, that'll be fun. Two more days of quality Lorcana content. Best NA has to offer.
Yeah, and we'll see more developing meta of Azurite Sea, which is something, you know, I think it had really just kind of come out, been legal for the European Continentals. So we're really going to see what folks have been brewing up. And it'll certainly inform the meta game of, I think, what we're going to see in stores for the SCAR Championship. So make sure you're taking Mr. Mayor, because I know you want that champion playmat and card.
Yep. I want a play set of the card, honestly, and I will try my hardest to get it. I've play testing with Ron today alone is just like, man, I don't know. I don't know if I got it in me, but because as soon as I played a couple regular games with my regular deck, I'm like, I'm the kind of person that needs variety. I need some flavor. Let's play something else here. And then I was like, well, that's not going to get me ready for sets. So let's just keep playing this deck and get more used to it, and hope that it.
That's not true though. Playing a variety of stuff is good as well. I mean, you want to be seasoned with the deck that you're playing for sure. So you know,
That's fair.
a
We've
week or
always
so
talked-
leading up, you want to really start grinding that into those matchups and stuff. But I've been encouraging Kirsten. I mean, I have personally been playing every list under the sun against Kirsten, who's been sitting on one for a little while, testing hers. But I've been encouraging her to try other ones, even just to make sure she feels confident on the one that she's playing.
I agree with Andy on testing multiple decks. I know Jesus, who has gone to the dark side, no longer plays Lorcana.
Literally. Yeah.
The
Star Wars.
Star Wars Unlimited. But yeah, he used to play a bunch of decks, and I think it allows it, it allows you to see different avenues of play, so that when you go back to your own deck, you can then be like, okay, I know this is coming. I know this is coming. Or like, you can have a better idea of how to play. And I think, Podcano's talked a lot about this with like, the analog to Lorcana being chess and understanding like different kind of chess openings and stuff. It's like, honestly, like when you play other decks, it's like you're playing different openings, you're playing different strategies. And so you're getting to learn all those different play lines that help you become a better player. It's like, honestly, I wish I did that more. It's just honestly a real pain to build a bunch of decks and then unbuild them to build other decks. So
Yeah, as soon as I said that, I felt regretful, because I was like, that's so contradictory to what we've always said on here, as to like, get familiar with your deck and then play the other one, switch deck so you can see the play lines yourself. And I'm like, and that's exactly what we did for, I think, 2 games today. I switched to Ron's pre-built Decandio deck, the Dwarf Mine, Diggy, I think he calls it, Diggy Hole. And I totally saw, on the play, just, get no... I had the perfect play lines to just, at least the first game, tear through it. And then the second game on the play he won, and the third game, I was in these situations where I'm like, I don't know what the best move is here, but this is why, playing this deck helps you understand what you're looking for. So it was very educational. I don't intend to play that deck, but it was nice to be behind it and try to see, what everybody else is thinking when they do, i.e. Kirsten, I think the only person I know playing it right now. But
It's a good deck. It's a really good deck.
It is when you can find your Cinderellas and your knights, and I could not. It was all daisies and Lilos.
Honestly, I think the mine may be the most overrated part of that list. We'll talk about it more later, but yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, we have one other bit of news. Andy, you want to take that away?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, it should be Friday. That means in 2 days, we should be, hosting the Rules of Villainy X Grapes Games 2025 New Year's Lorcana Spectacular live stream extravaganza. I ran out of words, but we are hosting. It's a 1.5K plus event. 2 cases in the prize pool for top 8. We've got an promo? Not enchanted. It's the promo D23 Mickey Mouse Sorcerer, autographed by Ryan Miller himself, hand delivered to Rules of Villainy member, and for this event specifically. We are facing one small issue here in the St. Louis area. Mother Nature, Elsa, has come to the area, and there may be snow that day. We're looking at snow currently, but we're monitoring the situation. So if you are in the local area, please keep an eye on our social media to find out the status of the event. But if you, regardless, check our social media, and hopefully that event will go on, and we will be able to bring you some awesome live stream content. If not, maybe we'll throw together something to live stream some content for you. Get some remote games from some of the team members or something.
Time?
It is at 11 a.m. Central Time.
Yep. It'll be streamed here on our YouTube from Grapes Games, and I think Andy covered it on one of the Discords or somewhere on the socials today. Even if we do have it and you don't feel safe on the roads, don't risk your life for it. We would love to have you there, and we're going to be monitoring it as much as we possibly can to make sure that we can fire it off safely. And we've been planning it for weeks and really want to get it. And of course, the one day of snow that we're going to get this winter happens to be that day. It's so frustrating, but we're so excited for it, and we're praying that it's going to fire.
We'll see. For our viewers that are not familiar with the St. Louis area, we have this thing called the St. Louis Arch, and it's a monument, but it's actually really like a weather diverting system. And sometimes, though, they don't want people to know that fact about it, so they sometimes just don't turn it on. So hopefully they do turn it on for this weekend, and we have no snow, and it's a perfectly beautiful day. But it might be the one day they don't want folks to know its true secret power of diverting weather, and so leave it off, in which case, unfortunately, we may have to reschedule for another day. But we're determined to have an event one way or another, whether it's this Sunday or in the future. And like, Brad said, we want to make sure people are safe getting there and also getting safe home. So we are monitoring the situation pretty closely with the hosts at Great Games.
You guys heard it here first. The government controls the weather. Rules of Villainy exclusive.
Vince did tell me
you did research right here.
Vince told me not to say anything, but I'm going to anyway. If it comes down to it this weekend, Vince said he will climb the arch and push that button. So we do have a backup plan.
That is good. That is a good backup plan.
Right. Well, we'll live stream that event for sure. High def. All right. Well, we're going to move right into Constituents Corner with the mayor. Take it away, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be back in the mailbag. Before I get there real quick, I just want to give a quick shout out. We glossed over the North American Championships. We do have Ron and Craig going, 2 locals here, as well as Justin, who's already qualified for a friend of the show for the main event. So good luck to all 3 of you guys. We hope that you succeed in your journeys in the LCQs and the championship. So, yeah. Absolutely. Moving on. Our first question is from Martin Karp, and he wants to know, did you guys get anything Lorcana related for the holidays?
I did.
Start with you, Andy.
Yeah,
what'd you
get?
get?
A bunch of stuff. I got this, I guess it's Lorcana adjacent, right? I didn't get anything specifically Lorcana, but I got a lot of Disney stuff. We got this cool little alien dice that won't
From Toy Story?
focus on my camera.
It worked great earlier.
It's like a
cute,
whole
yeah.
dice set.
A
And
claw.
we got this shirt that says "No sign of intelligent life anywhere," which
That
is,
applies to this podcast. Yep.
Yes. We also got I got it for Kirsten, but we kind of opened it together and shared it. We got some of those like Japanese cards,
Oh, that's cute.
That's
and they've got like a whole bunch of like crazy different
Ratatouille.
Yes.
series ones of them.
That's so cool.
So there's a lot of these that we filled
Wow.
a whole binder and stuff with them. So these were really, really fun to open. Kirsten actually recorded most of these openings on her for her Instagram and TikTok and stuff. We'll make sure that links below. So she hasn't put them out yet, I believe, but she'll be doing some of them over the course of the year here. I also got this. I can't do it with the camera here. This thing, which is like the Illuminary symbol, right? Is that what you call it? Or just the Lorcana logo?
I think the logo.
That was made by Hummingbird Design Lab. Kirsten got that for me. It is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
How about you, Brad?
I got that shirt back there from Emily's mom. It's just all the colors listed with the and symbols. I thought that was pretty cute. I got the tote back here, so I no longer have to use my Fallout bag. I have a Lorcana tote, and I put my Scar Clippy on it from the holiday special, so that's been a lot of fun. And I got some packs in my stockings as stuffers. One from Ursula's Returns, Shimmering Skies, and Azurite Sea. And the first pack I opened was the Azurite Sea and got an Oswald in it, and was the most notable pull that I got. So, but yeah, really exciting.
Nice.
What about you, Vince?
Yeah, well, so I don't have it here, but Brad saw them on Monday night. I got these cat dice, custom cat dice from a friend. So hopefully, maybe I'll show them in the future. But which was actually a late Christmas gift. It came in yesterday, I think. But a friend of mine got me this
Oh wow!
Ooh, wow.
custom playmat.
That is really
This is
cool.
our first time seeing it. That's
That
really
is
cool.
neat.
So yeah, I didn't share that with either of you because I wanted to share it on the
Wow,
pod.
that's
So I thought that
awesome.
was pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
So maybe you'll see this on the live stream on
Yeah.
Sunday. Yeah, so those are really the big two things I got. I did buy myself a trove
Of course.
from Target,
Nice.
and
You're still picking through it, I bet too.
well, yeah, I still have 2 more packs to open. These guys don't understand. I think probably a lot of viewers don't understand this either, that I like open 1 pack a day with my coffee. I don't open them all right away. But the pack I opened the other day had
Gadget.
probably can't see it. It's probably not going to focus.
You're a manual focus, Vince.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Mommy. Can you see it right here? No.
It's a gadget hack wrench enchanted.
Yeah, gadget hack wrench enchanted. So
That card, man, was the very first pack that Emily opened on the launch day of Azurite Sea. Had that card in it.
you know,
It's
it's funny.
insane.
It's funny too because I almost grabbed like the first trove on the shelf.
Mhm.
Like, no, I'm gonna grab the one behind it.
Yeah, you always get the one behind it.
And so that was a good call. That was a good call. But
Who
yeah,
knows? You still have 2 packs. There might be another one in there.
you never know.
I also got a shout out. I got this. I just realized it when I took a drink earlier. It's my Nick Wilde. Trust me, I'm a fox.
Oh, that's cute. Very nice.
I definitely
that-
need to up my coffee mug game.
You just spill it all over yourself. You need a sippy cup.
We've gotten so many just from collecting them for the podcast, trying to like change them up and stuff. And that was like the hot ticket item that that Kirsten told everyone for Christmas. So like all of the like white elephant gifts I got, all like Secret Santa things, my whole family, everyone got me a mug. So our cabinet is full. So over the holidays, Kirsten took out a bunch of our like alcohol stuff, like our fancy like whiskey glasses and her martini glasses and things, and we put them in storage, and we turned that into our Disney mug cabinet now. So we have like our alcohol cabinet is just full of Disney mugs.
That's so funny.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Well, awesome, guys. Thanks for sharing. Let's move on to question 2 from who I think probably has the funniest and coolest name in the Discord right now. If you think you can beat it, please join. Would love to see it. Thick Flare is asking. He's from the Lorcana Heat podcast. His name is Keith. He gave us a shout out, so shout out to you as well. Thank you so much for that. Thick Flare, the Lorcana Heat podcast. The story is it's like a wrestling like side by side with Lorcana and wrestling. That's where the Thick Flare comes from, and it was really cool to listen to their second episode last week. He asked, "Hey y'all, long-time listener, first-time inquisitor, Keith here from Lorcana Heat. What are all y'all's thoughts on the judges not making Rodrigo exert one of them?" I practiced this name before I asked this question or wrote this down, and don't remember how they were pronouncing it on the air. Is it Michele?
Michele.
Michele, yeah. Michele's characters with Elsa in the final game of the EU finals. It didn't seem like it mattered anyway, but shouldn't have judge have caught it. And before we go into that, I did kind of go back and watch the stream to kind of give everybody a grasp of what the situation was here. The score was 17-15 Rodrigo. On Rodrigo's turn, he was leading by 2. He had Snake and Rabbit on board. He had a Genie that he played for the draw, and then he played Elsa, the 5-drop Elsa, and did not exert either the Snake or the Cloud Kicker that Michele had on board. The card for Elsa reads that you must exert a character. It's not a May ability. But the thing about the Elsa character is that when you exert it, it's just going to ready up at the start of the next turn anyway. So is it a bad thing that he didn't do it? I don't think so. I'll let you guys weigh in just a second. But what I think he was contemplating the entire time was, and correctly, was that Michele had a go-go in hand. And he was down by 5. And if Rodrigo did the wrong thing there by leaving damage on any of his characters, that go-go could come out and possibly win the game with, a top deck goat or something as well, because he would have put him at 14, assume that he quested out and did the go-go effect. So ultimately, the question is, should a judge have caught the Elsa not exerting? And then what are your thoughts on that as a whole, that interaction, and if it mattered in any regard?
So my answer is no, because players are the ones that need to maintain game state. It's not judges' responsibility to maintain game state. It's players' responsibility to maintain game state. And if they want, they should... You've got questions, you call judges over and you say, hey, they're supposed to do this. Now, in this instance, it doesn't really matter. There's an argument to say, obviously you want the best play possible at these highly competitive matches. So judges are available there. They are watching the match. They do point out errors. Should they have caught this? Yeah, probably, yes. What's the net effect of it, though, is like Brad said, nothing mattered here, because he wasn't, even if he had exerted a character, he wasn't going to challenge it for that exact reason of the go-go, and the character would have just readied on the next turn, and ultimately the same net effect would have worked out. There's really no penalty. There's nothing catastrophic that goes. I guess what would have been different is, an interesting question I think I'd say, ask both of you, is would it have mattered if he instead had a reckless character on board?
100%.
So he plays Elsa, but he also still has Maui on board.
Yeah. Yeah. Then at that point, he has to exert something, and Maui has to attack it. And that's
right.
That would be a,
because then that matters. Yeah. Then it matters.
So the one thing I think, though, is that technically it's the situation of the crab, right? If the crab is banished on your opponent's turn, if your crab is banished on your opponent's turn, the text still reads, you must give something challenger +3. And in fact, if you have nothing else of your own, you may have to give your opponent's character challenger +3. Although Yeah,
doesn't matter because you don't have anything on board.
right. You don't have anything else on board. So there's never a scenario where that really matters, but technically that is part of the rules. So it does make me curious because, my original take on this, first off, he makes no other moves or decisions in the game. And we don't have the audio of the players. So technically, although it took like 10 minutes for him to go through everyone's discard and do all of this stuff and touch all of his cards and think through all of his things, technically, he could have still been just deciding on who to exert with Elsa. And at the very end, just said, I'm going to exert Kit and then I'll pass turn. Right? So he could have verbalized that, and we just simply could have not seen Michele. He just didn't tap and exert and unexert, right? So he technically didn't actually do anything wrong. It was kind of interesting. He put his hand down while checking his discard, and he put it next to his ink, and then he had to think for a second, and you could see him talking to Michele and go, "This is my hand. I'm sorry I put it next to my ink," and then he moves it further away and stuff. It really, again, none of this mattered for the outcome. A supercomputer can go through all the things, and there's nothing that mattered. It was over at this point. But I do think it was kind of interesting that there were no judges there at the end. They back out, and there's not the typical two judges sitting one next to each the player. So it kind of seems like it's the Wild West. Again, with that hand next to the inkwell, he just kind of told the person, and Michele was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And and it doesn't change the game state, but it kind of raises this question to me, is that important? And where do we draw the line? Should we abide by all of the rules and make sure every possible thing that is supposed to happen in a Lorcana game happens and is recognized and noticed and everyone knows that it happened? Or can we sort of shortcut these things that don't really matter, right? When I play test with Kirsten and I play with my friends at LGS stores, I definitely shortcut a lot of things that would not fly at a normal DLC. But where is that line drawn, right? When can we shortcut and just say there's no way I'm challenging anything you have on the board, so I don't really care who Elsa exerts, right? I don't really care which Lilo I banish here, right? You pick that kind of situation. When do we force it to be in,
I think in the capacity of the official tournament, live streamed on everything, the finals of the EU Continentals, in this specific example, I think it's really important because people who may not play the game won't understand what's happening, right? When you're doing it at your locals with me, I understand what you're doing and I don't care. Or when I do it, I'd be like, exert that. I'm just, doing this anyway, whatever. So, and we understand because we play each other regularly. We know what we're trying to do and everything. Yeah, I'm curious how the judging thing works because we've seen for months now with the DLCs that the judges would be sitting there with them, at least in North America. I don't know about overseas, and I don't know if it's a production design or production reasoning why they just had the two players sitting there. I don't know what's being said in the headphones. I know there's translations and stuff that are happening as well, but I have to imagine that they're live watching that, and maybe they're saying over the headset, or I guess they can't dictate the game and say you have to exert something. I don't know.
They could. I mean,
I guess they could. But like Vince said, it's a
I think they have to be doing that though. I think the judges are watching the cameras and are communicating through the headset with them. Otherwise, then there's just no in the is someone going to raise their hand and call judge in the championship game?
I do think it is much more challenging in the EU for that though, because of the language barrier than it is in North America. Where it's for lack of better, diversity of language is not one of our strong things. Even if you are bilingual in the United States, that's probably a minority at these games than in Europe, where there's multiple languages being spoken and not necessarily overlapping languages. So, I think that is probably a barrier there. I would just say, honestly, even in practice, I would honestly just stress for most folks to try to play the game as it's intended to be played so that you don't make a mistake when it matters. So it's easy for us to say we play the game and stuff, and it's oh well, I'm not going to attack anything, so you exert whatever you want, or I'm not going to exert. But then don't get in the bad habit that like that's what you would do and stuff. Cause like
Yep.
sometimes if you do these things more casually, they can build bad habits into how you play. And then you are more prone to misplaying. And so it is at the very least, you know, I see Brad do this a lot, which is like, he'll be like, well, you know, it doesn't matter. I'll exert that. And he'll just like point at something and stuff. But at least like he's in his mind going through, you know, the procedures so that like when it does matter, you know, he's like at least following through the cards. Cause I have gotten into the bad habit where I've, you know, been like, oh, this doesn't matter. And then it's like, okay, well, actually, no, it does matter. You know, and it's hard to know sometimes what those lines are. Like it's easy to like review the footage here and go backwards and say, okay, this didn't matter. But you know, it could have mattered, right? Like it just didn't happen to matter this particular time.
Yeah. I think the hard part with that is that, and I'm on both sides of this. Like Kirsten gets mad at me when I do that. When I like enunciate every single thing that I do, like I'm in the finals of a DLC, she's like, yeah, I get it. You can stop now. Like you can stop saying you're drawing for the rabbit. We know what it does. And it's like, you're kind of, it's hard to not tilt your opponent sometimes when you do that. So I also get tilted when my opponents do that. So I think the best thing here is that if you are losing and your opponent is still trying to play by the books and do everything, just be chill with them, all right?
Yeah.
They won, be happy for them. Try not to tilt. That's the best thing you can do.
It's funny you say that because I had that
ahead.
experience this Monday and stuff. It's like I clearly like was winning the game and there was nothing my opponent could do. But it was like, okay, you know, popsicle. I'm gonna draw for popsicle. You know, play another popsicle. I'm gonna draw for popsicle. Play another popsicle. And like it's like, okay, I get it. Like I've lost. Like there's no way I'm coming back from this. But it's like you're also prepping in these scenarios too to make sure that you're playing everything right. And it also helps you prepare for those outs. So yeah, I think, you know, grace is needed on all sides of the equation.
Yes.
Brad, the last word.
Yeah, I just wanted to give Kirsten a little grief because I'll never forget the night, like 3 nights after we got back from Chicago, and she's playing the Bucky discard at Bodax, and she was doing everything that Andy described as her hating
Discard.
him. Okay, yeah, discard. Discard, and every single action, and I'm just like, oh my God, Kirsten, you're turning into one of them. Like I get it. I was in Kirsten's seat that she's in with Andy and then of course I was against Bucky, so I'm just like, oh, this is way too much. This is not fun in so many levels. But I had to call that out just because of the irony of it.
She
But
said she hated that. She said she never. She was like, that was the worst.
That's
time
also true.
It was the worst 3-0 I've ever had at LGS before. She was just like, I won all of them and none of them were fun. I just said the word discard like 1,000 times.
Okay, thank you guys. Moving on to question 3 from Jimmy. He asked, what's a small hill you're willing to die on in Lorcana? For example, X card is good even though everyone else disagrees, or Y card is bad. Hot takes on best of 2 or 3, whatever. I'll start with Vince.
Honestly, my hot takes are whatever is a hot take for both of you, and then I just take the opposing side of it, which I feel like is like all of our hot takes, to be honest.
Pretty much.
I don't know. Vince is a Lady Tremaine.
The answer.
I think Vince is a Lady Tremaine stan.
I am a Lady Tremaine stan, and you are correct. That is absolutely a hill I will die on.
Because I've been a hater of Lady Tremaine in the past, and Vince has tried to push me off that hill and said, no, I'm staying here.
I still have Lady Tremaine in my Ruby Amethyst deck. It's still there.
It's making a comeback.
She's still there.
It's still,
she's there. I don't get me wrong. I understand why you don't like her. I totally get it. I don't agree with it, but I understand why you. And I agree. There are better cards. Like I think just flat out, Medusa is a better card than Lady Tremaine. However, there are real key instances where it's super nice to have Lady Tremaine, but sometimes her effect falls short. Like it sucks to play her on a I mean, it sucks to play any card with an enter the battlefield effect that does something to your opponent on an empty board like that. Really, it's like, okay,
Medusa
sucks,
sucks
but-
too. Then in that case,
yeah. But
Yeah,
but it really sucks
Train's
when it's
better
like
there
they've got, like,
actually.
four cards, and it's like they're just gonna get rid of their 1-drop, right? Like that's when it really sucks, because it's like, actually I really want to get rid of this other card. But I think in certain scenarios where you have optionality, like you can play a brawl, or you can, like, challenge another character, you can kind of force their decision pathway to make Tremaine a really impactful character.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you, Andy?
I don't know. That's really tough. I don't think I think I hate all of the cards. So like there's not really one that I like that no one else doesn't like. There's ones that I don't like that everyone else does like. And I think I'm kind of hypercritical of cards until I can see them do something that brings value. You gotta show me what you're worth. You can't just like print some text on cardboard and be like, this is the best card ever. I'm not trying to do that. I don't know. I never really thought Diablo was that great. I was kind of
Nobody did until that deck happened. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was at the very beginning. People were on Diablo, some or whatever. I don't know. I just
I want to give a shout out to Citizens of Lorcana, because they thought that card was terrible when it was announced, and then it just took over.
Right, and that's it wasn't until Citizens of Lorcana that I when they were like, yeah, we didn't think that card was great. I was like, I didn't either. Thank you. I'm glad you said something. Like, and I still I tried playing Emerald Steel again now because people like Dale and Zan and stuff have been playing it, and what Moyen said he was about to play Emerald Steel in the EU Continentals and then swapped, and I was like, and it just so many of the other decks out there just have good cards, and while Emerald Steel has better cards, you like need those better cards. Like you need to hit that combo. If you hit that combo, it's still unbeatable. It really still is. But just the amount of good value cards that everyone else has, if you don't hit that combo, it's so bad. It feels so bad now. I don't know.
Yeah.
What about you, Brad?
I was just going to say that one, I think Blurple is like one removal thing away from being a top table deck, a consistent one. And the other one, the more fun one that I think what Jimmy was looking for, specific to cards, is that I think that probably the most fun card in Lorcana, at least for me, is I'm just already imagining Andy reacting to it. The legendary Mufasa in Amber, because it's so fun. It's so fun to play Mufasa roulette in any color.
What's better than gambling and killing Mufasa for a Scar fan? That's like the most fun a Lorcana
You haven't
Scar
lived
fan could have.
until you've flipped over a big Cindy from a Mufasa, and then the opponent being like, well, can't deal with that for a couple turns. Like it just. There's been so many situations where, a lot of Andy's pointed out before too, in the Mufasa decks, the times that I actually get Mufasa out is rare. But when I do get him out and I get to play that roulette and see what's spinning underneath my deck or on top of my deck, I just find so much enjoyment in that. And I will die on that hill that any Mufasa deck is a fun deck to play.
Definitely. Most Mufasa decks are already good decks, and they don't even really need
Throw
Mufasa.
Mufasa in.
Like Mufasa is just a fun and not bad card. So like it's a decent card that you just play, and you're like, I'm gonna get 2 lore and another character out of this, easy.
Until somebody inkwells it.
Yeah. Blurple.
Yeah. Yep. All right. All right, moving on. We have Ali Ultran asking, how do you feel about the release date of new sets close to, he described as BL events, which I think is a sponsor and maybe on in other countries, but he's talking about like conventions and stuff. So like set 6 was close to the EU Continentals, and set 7 is going to be close to, or not Continentals, EU Con. I think that's a convention. And set 7 is going to be close with Worlds. Will NA Continentals be played with more established meta than EU?
He meant Continentals. EU Continentals were played.
Oh yeah,
like,
set 6 right before
after.
that.
Yeah.
So I guess the main question is, North America is going to be playing with a well more established meta than the EU. I mean, the EU didn't. It wasn't even. Like, go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
Yeah, and I just think like in general, I don't think there's really that big of a problem with it. I think from the most competitive players, you know, they may have a personal preference of early set, late set, or whatever, but you know, they'll play whatever cards are there, right? If they hosted, in fact, I think Artabax talked about this with LD on his latest podcast. Like, they were talking about the idea that this DLC is happening in Australia that gets, you know, top 1 and 2 get into Worlds, and they said, so that's only what 28 now, and we need 4 more for 32 at Worlds. So what if there's top 2 in China and top 2 in Japan? And then they talked about how China and Japan would only be at set 3-ish by the time they could fit in one of these DLCs. And so they basically were saying, would you want to go to an event that was a set 3 meta, even though we exist in set 6 now, or set 7 by then, right? And they were both like, yes, sign me up, please. Granted, Artabax is trying to relive his glory days of the Emerald Amethyst and how great it was in set 3. But I think it resonates that like the competitive players want to play Lorcana. They want to see it grow. They want to see more new things or whatever. But I don't think we're too swayed by like, oh man, it's only 2 weeks old, or you know, the set's only been out 2 weeks, or you know, other than like the personal preferences, like I said.
What about you, Vince?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like having a pretty set cadence on what set releases are doesn't really matter. I mean, we're always going to have like competitive events that are going to overlap when sets are out, or you know, I think probably the worst part is when you have like DLCs that, or events, competitive events that are at the tail end of like that fall into this like weird, like Toronto, I think is a good example.
Toronto, yeah.
Where Shimmering Skies was released, but not competitive legal for the event. And so that I think feels probably the worst of them, but that's going to happen. Competitive, especially, hopefully they're going to have more DLCs, so it's more likely that we're going to have scenarios where they overlap like that. I would be surprised if they did a Japan or China event if they just didn't say like the sets are legal up to now, you know, even though they're not, even though they have only
locals though. How would locals in China or Japan get cards?
Yeah,
I mean, they'll play cards like any other country plays cards. Like, I mean, you know, it's like
they'll draw the shark on it.
You know, they'll just play. I mean, this has happened in other areas and stuff. It's like we don't have Spanish cards, right? Well, we do now. I think we have a limited amount of Spanish cards. I think they only released like an Italian in set 2, right? Is that right?
You're right.
So there have been plenty of times where we just don't have all these like language cards, you know, so you kind of gotta pick the lane or language you've got, and
I feel like all of the languages are. I feel like even with the languages, all of the sets, like at least up to present, had been released. I guess you're right. So it's the back end of that. Well, no, because when like Italian sets come out in like set 3, they still get set 1 and 2. They just get them really accelerated. So I think, unless I'm wrong, I think all of the DLCs in Europe, every region of Europe that is stocked with Lorcana cards, if you will, that they had a DLC in, had all of the sets up to recent available. I wonder if I would wonder if China or Japan would like rush the extra sets and shove them all into an even more accelerated frame, so
that's so many cards though, man. That's
but here's the like conundrum you have though, right? And this is why I would say I feel like a China event or a Japan event, which I think is a great idea, would have to play up to current meta, because whoever wins that tournament is going to end up going to Worlds and have to play set 7 meta. So they're going to have to catch. So they're going to have so that same problem that you're talking about, like
Yeah.
language, is going to have to occur anyway and stuff. I think probably what's more likely to occur and what they probably could do is say, like, you can get these sets in, English, or, I mean, English is probably the most widely printed, I think,
Right.
set. Probably English and probably German, given Ravensburger is
yeah.
based in Germany. I don't know that for sure. I'm just making the assumption. But is that they probably have translations of these cards too for people that need them and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's really weird that, like, if we were living in Japan right now and they had a DLC and they said set 7 is legal, where would we buy set 3 through 7 or 6 or whatever? Where would we even get our hands on it? It'd be very difficult even to get it costs a lot of money, and it would, I think, push a lot of local, like, players out. And if you think about it, if they did just a set 3, while you're right, within a month maybe, or 2 weeks even before Worlds, you would be playing on set 7. We do have people who qualified for Worlds. Josh, the winner of ATL, the Atlanta DLC, they played on set 3. So they qualified, and obviously they've had a lot more time to buy the cards and stuff. So I think the answer really needs to be they need to make all of the cards available in those languages ASAP.
Yeah, maybe they are. Like, I don't know the plans, but hopefully we've always.
My understanding, Japan, I've only been following Japan, and I assume it's very similar to what's going on in China. Is that set 1 is releasing in January, so it's releasing this month.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then pre-orders for Floodborne have just started in Japan. So they just started over this past.
And they're doing, is it one a month, or are they doing, I think that's what Australia did, was one a month, right?
That might be it and stuff. So then they would
miss Worlds, though.
Yeah, they would still miss Worlds. I mean, they would still be behind, right? They wouldn't catch up until set 9, right? If they're doing one a month.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, though. We don't have an official date for Worlds yet. We assume that we know.
March. It's March, though. The month is March, right? We know that.
We don't know that.
Yeah,
it's not officially.
It's not technically official. It was unofficial looking,
I thought it was official.
paper.
I thought they did say that at
everybody thought that they said
they
it
didn't
at
say
D23,
that
but they
D23.
never did.
There was a screenshot, though, of a piece of paper that showed all of the information that we got from D23. And where it said Worlds Disney World, it had parentheses March 2025. And that was making the rounds. But I never saw any follow-up that said that paper was even legitimate, that picture came from, I could have printed that out at my house, taken a picture, and sent it out there. But I believe, I want to say Ravensburger made a comment on it and said we can neither confirm nor deny. It was like can't say
it's
anything.
not official, and it's not official. Like, it's just, it's information that's out there. That's all that we know. We don't have,
it's just largely
official
assumed to be March.
You'd think you'd want people to know when the.
That's where I'm starting to get concerned at this point. Is it's 2 months away, but then they announce the Australia DLC, and it's like, okay, those two people are going to go to Worlds a month later, because Australia's in February. So I'm not as convinced that it's actually in March, but we won't know until there's an official announcement.
I would be somewhat surprised if it isn't in March. I'll just say that.
A little bit.
Can't be much past March, because they got to start the DLC circuit and everything back again.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point. Is everything has to start back up again. But anyway.
Yep. All right. Thank you for that question. The last two I kind of bundled together. John from our Discord asked, is the new Blurple hype just another flavor of the week deck, or is it a contender for a meta deck? And Brad is not allowed to answer this. Follow-up, Martin Karp asked previously, before this question was asked, are you really going to cover Blurple? Yes, we are, Martin. We're going to be talking about a lot of Blurple, but apparently I'm not. Vince, Andy, take it away.
Yeah, so no, we don't cover Blurple on this channel at all.
Vince, Ruby Amethyst, right? So can you believe that won both the SSG and the EU Continentals, man? What a great pairing to go with Amethyst, such as Ruby.
And I wonder who's been talking up Ruby Amethyst and Amethyst in general all this time in this podcast.
I don't know.
I have no
Who could
idea.
it be?
Who could it be? Who could it be? And Lo, is the new Blurple hype just another flavor of the week? Yes, it is. It is just another flavor.
Look at Brad over here. Brad's like, this is not what we talked about before the podcast. You were on Blurple's side. You said you were good.
We're gonna cover it here.
We are gonna talk about some Blurple.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so that's it for the mailbag. If you'd like to have your questions answered by the villains in the future, please be sure to comment on the video on YouTube, our socials, or join us on our Discord, where you can comment in the Constituents Corner channel. And I'll kick it back to you, Vince.
All right, thanks, Brad. On to our main segment. So we've got the major tournament that occurred this weekend was the Southside Gaming 8-case tournament, which, as Andy alluded to, was won by none other than Ruby Amethyst. And the second place is was it Blurple? No, it wasn't Blurple. It was Ruby Sapphire. But in third place was Blurple. The Sapphire Amethyst deck did make the top 4 in this event. So yeah.
Don't cut it short. Top 3, sir.
It was also undefeated in Swiss. So it definitely did very, very well. It's a good list. It's why we're talking about it. We shouldn't undercut it too much, even if it's not as great as Ruby Amethyst, or it wasn't that day, at least. Although I have heard
usually a favorable matchup.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've heard a lot of opinions say that the Blurple is the best Amethyst list against all other Amethyst lists. So
yeah, I think Justin even said that today in Rudros's video. And what surprised the heck out of me was on Friday, I think Friday or Saturday or sometime last week, Justin was testing it with Ron, and seeing Justin on Blurple was like, what's going on here? You've always been red blue. You've max rarity'd your red blue, your Ruby Sapphire, and then I've seen you on Amethyst Steel, and he's got the qualifiers not the qualifiers, the Continentals coming up, the actual Continental. So going back to circling back to our early conversation where testing other decks and seeing what those play lines and seeing him on Blurple was like, what's he doing on there? He don't got time to play around. And it turns out maybe he had a little bit of insider info or something, because Blurple showed up at this tournament a day or two later, and I forget what I was doing that day, but it's seeing all the updates come in on Discord about Blurple just running the show, walking away with everything, and Swiss was like, what is going on? I can't even pay attention to it right now. And the deck that I've been playing for the last 6 months, probably, maybe less, but at least the last 2 sets, is just popping off now. And the entire time I'm like, I feel redeemed. Let's go. I need to see this deck list. And as Andy alluded to, it's a great deck list, but it wasn't what I expected. It's almost basically the standard
Blurple list.
I have to just say Blurple. Yeah, I was trying to think of the colors, the Sapphire, Amethyst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I mean, Jack, the player at SSG, I believe, is sponsored by SSG. So, he also went undefeated in Swiss. So he was on stream for a lot of the event. And I know that the SSG folks were hyping him up a lot. So the Blurple was exploding on social media for sure during that event. But it definitely has been a sleeper. I've been testing with Kirsten. She's been playing a version of the more aggro Steel Song list that, similar to like what DeCandio or others would play, the Diggy Hole. And honestly, that list is very, very hard to beat. All of the characters essentially are 2 questers. They threaten lore very easily. They're hard to remove. And then even just the small amount of removal that they have with like a Cinderella and the 2 3-cost songs in Storm and Strength, or the Mine and the 2 dwarves or the 2 knights technically in Doc and Happy. Right. Like just that small amount of removal is usually enough to like really annoy you, and then you realize, oh wait, I lost. Okay, that was enough. That was what they needed, and I've been having a lot of trouble beating it. And honestly, Blurple has been just in testing after after the SSG event, I saw Blurple. I figured, okay, let's throw it in the rotation. I was at this point desperate for a list that could potentially beat this Steel Song. Otherwise, we were just going to test mirrors all day because it seemed like it was the best list. And Blurple does really, really well into the aggro. You wouldn't think it because it doesn't have the board wipe, but the constant bouncing and playing again of cards like Elsa, the Foxes and Elsa, Hades, and bounce the Hades and play it again. Being able to Hades a Lilo and take it out of rotation so that it can't possibly come back into play the next turn. It is very, very nice. It works very well, and just ramping. Honestly, just ramping is great. You sacrifice that early, but ramping to 4 means that even if they clear your board, they clear your 1-drop, they clear your Tipo that you've ramped with, or you don't even ramp with Tipo, you ramp with Sail or something, you can play a 1-drop and then pick it back up with a Fox on turn 3 and continue your route to take out a Daisy, which is really annoying you. Whereas in Ruby Amethyst or Amethyst Emerald, especially Amethyst Emerald gets eaten by Steel Song. But like in Ruby Amethyst or something, you play a 1-drop, you play a 2-drop. If both of those are ousted, you have nothing to bounce for that Fox on 3, and your best you brawl ideally, maybe. Otherwise, you're playing a little Sisu and pass and turn, and they're getting 6 lore now to put them at 12, and it's really rough. So Blurple has a spot to be tested for sure.
I think that's for sure. Before we get too deep into Blurple, I do want to kind of talk briefly about the top 2 decks here. And so the Ruby Amethyst deck, which I think was really interesting, is that it has this 1-drop Moana self-taught sailor in it, which is something I hadn't really seen in the Ruby Amethyst to date. So just a reminder, that's this character can't challenge unless you have a captain character in play.
Yeah, there are none in
there
that
is
list.
No captain characters.
Yeah, you don't want to
play.
ever challenge with her. Yeah. She's there to be an early trigger for the Flynn on turn 2, and then anything that goes into her is likely just sacrificing itself to take her out. I was going up against that against Ron today, and it was like, that Moana's bothersome, but I'm not going to run anything into it until it was too late. And I was like, well, I probably should have taken care of her a long time ago. But
works the same as
but yeah.
Diablo. Diablo as well is one of those characters that Fred, Merfolk. It's one of those ones that you just freely quest with, and you know that the opponent gets punished when they have to take it out eventually. And if they don't, free lore.
And this deck is also a little unconventional too, in that it has a Elsa, Spirit of Winter, just a 1-up, which I thought was an interesting flavor. Don't see that card in Ruby Amethyst much at all.
Well,
it's in set 1.
It's in Blurple, and it works great in Blurple. And there was actually a moment in the SSG stream where the Ruby Amethyst player played that Elsa against the Blurple player, and you could visibly see that they were shocked that that card existed in their deck. They were like, what? And the announcers were like, he was not expecting to get a taste of his own medicine with that Elsa from this deck. So it was a spicy inclusion. I do want to also point out one of the casters, I believe, mentioned this, and I tend to agree that it is risky, right? You now have I think you had 1 big Sisu and 1 big Elsa, and so that's now 2 8-cost dead cards in your hand if you get them early, along with the Be Prepareds that you have in your list, and then your Medusas and your Tremaines, and like all of your Uninkables are really high end, and it doesn't feel like Ruby Amethyst could fit that card in it, but that's also why it took that Blurple player by surprise, and hey, they won, right? And the Blurple player didn't, so any given day.
Yeah, I do think it is
favor
risky move with a high Uninkable count.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'll always favor spice like that. I run a 1 of Merlin Shift, and I have been. I took it out after this Blurple, just this Blurple emerged to go back to the roots of the standard Blurple build. But I just always I love the flavor of adding something like the Merlin Shift or the big Elsa when you don't expect it. For that reaction alone, like I didn't see the stream, I was busy that day, but imagining going against a standard Ruby Amethyst and seeing that card come out, be like, okay, you got to readjust here, you know?
No way they
always
played
a
around it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always a fan of that. And I agree. Like the high end uninkables on here is insane. Like you said, we got 3 Be Prepareds, 1 big Sisu, 1 big Elsa, 2 Medusas, and 2 of Andy's favorite Tremaines. That's
Ladies
that's
in
5,
chairs.
6, 9 uninkables above 6 cost.
Very rough.
That could brick you very early. Let alone the rabbits that he has in there as well. So
Yeah.
but at least you can
Yeah.
get that out really early to try to get out of that situation.
So
And then go on.
I was gonna say, I was gonna segue into another question here. I wanted to get Brad's thoughts. I know he's not allowed to talk about Blurple, but I think he's already broken the rules. So, what is
Sorry,
your thoughts? What is your thoughts on the Donald Duck focused flatfoot, that 5 cost inkable 3/4 that has the Mickey Mouse effect? When you play it, you top card in the inkwell.
Honestly,
that in Blurple, like, how do you? What is your thoughts on that? It's an interesting.
I'm gonna eat crow on it because honestly, I saw that in people like Illumiqueer Lens and Humble. They've been on Blurple for a while too. Pretty much my inspiration for the color combo, and they would start with their iterations with Donald in that 5 slot. And I never asked. I was like, I don't want to be ramping on 5 anymore. Like I think I'm gonna be fine from that point on. Once Elsa gets out there, maybe I'll shift. I'll take over. I'll have Hades in a couple turns, and so that duck I never understood. He's inkable. He quests for 2. He's a 3/4, I think. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
And I never really grasped the concept. I'm like, I don't need ramp at 5. I'm good. Until I talked to Justin this past weekend, and he kind of put it in perspective for me. It's like, well, you play that duck on 4, then suddenly you have 7 ink on turn 5, and then you have your Hades online and all this other stuff as well. So 7 ink on turn 5 is absolutely insane. So I've been running the 2 or 3 ducks that this deck consists of, and finding that when I can get that duck out there, not only is he threatening the lore, he's upping my resources as well, and it just makes the rest of the game easier to get multiple smaller bodies out, assuming that I've hit my draws and everything to continue replenishing my hand. And like you mentioned earlier, one of the most satisfying things in this deck, which I got to actually do today, is play Hades and then immediately bounce him with Snake, just to show the opponent like, hey, you want to put another Tamatoa out there, go ahead, because I'm ready to get rid of him. So, assuming I don't ink all my snakes super early, which I found has been a problem, because on turn 2 I'm looking for Sail, and I'm looking for Tipo, and I'm looking for that ramp. And if I have a snake in my hand, I'm like, well, I'm not playing you on turn 2. Let's go ahead and ink you. And then suddenly I don't have that ink anymore, or that snake anymore to do that combo. But as far as your question with the duck, like, the additional ramp there does help quite a bit, and I'm starting to see it for the first time, because initially I was like, I don't need it, but now it's like, okay, quest for 2, give me additional ink, and it's off the top, sure,
I wish it was.
I mean, when you pair that with your draw ability too, you don't end up in the same kind of scenario that you can in, say, a Ruby Sapphire deck, where you are running out of cards in hand to be able to ink. It's like, honestly, it's like I was playing you, Brad, when you were playing this on Monday and stuff, and it's like, man, do you ever run out of cards in your hand? And you don't. And we've talked a lot about that with the Amethyst draw power, whether it be friends on the other side, whether it be things like Rabbit and bouncing it. And now you've got Sail as well. You've got a lot of opportunity to at least replace cards or draw additional cards in your hand. So it allows you to do things like play 2 Tipos and use its effect, and not have to worry as much about the limited hand size that you might if you were playing, say, Ruby Sapphire, where it's like, okay, do I really want to ink another card from my hand and only have maybe 4 cards in hand and stuff. Because as we can tell, like, having hand size in the game matters, especially when you're not necessarily having to worry about so many whole new worlds in the game. So you're not as worried about trying to get all the cards out in play or empty your hand, really just trying to find a strategy to get as many outs and having that card draw. And it's honestly why, like, I'm a big Amethyst fan, right? Is like loving that card draw. It is also why I like, things like Sapphire too, having optionality in these hands. So I think that's actually pretty great inclusion in the deck.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Whole New World. That's actually interesting. I feel like Whole New World is not great at the moment because, like, you talk about a Whole New World being sort of the counter to this large hand size, but I feel comfortable at like a 4 to 7 card hand. You know, I don't need the 33 card hand that Zan has in the finals with his Emerald Steel and stuff. So I know that the version Kirsten is running when I play against her Steel Song does not have Whole New World, but I never once really consider, like, I never think like, wow, a Whole New World would be devastating here, because I never have, you know, I'm almost always going to get more cards than I threw away. You know, it can be devastating later, but I feel like Whole New World, we've seen this a bunch, but it's one of those cards that's like great and then bad and then great and then bad, and then like it's in the meta, it's out of the meta, it's in the meta, and I feel like Steel Song is slowly creeping away from having a Whole New World in it, and it's moving more towards the draw tools of like Doc and Rapunzel.
I think some of that is also dictated by the fact that there are a lot more discard recursion tools. So you've got things like, you know, the Lilo, right? So if it's in the discard, you know, you can always play it from your discard. So who cares if it goes in the discard? You've got Maui Half Shark when you can get its action recursion out, which is really kind of nice. I was able to actually like pull that off once or twice on Monday. And that's a fun kind of utility to be able to do. So I think Whole New World has kind of lost its impact because of that, right? You know, it's like, yeah, it sucks if, like, you know, your one answer, say it's the, you know, be prepared, gets ripped out of your hand, right? And you don't draw into it with your new 7 cards. It's like, well, okay, it's like I've got a Maui Half Shark, I'll play that, and
Yep.
you know, hopefully it's likely to survive at least one turn, you know, not guaranteed, but likely to. And you can, you know, challenge another character and you just pull the be prepared right back from your hand, you know. So, you know, from your discard. So I think in that respect, a Whole New World has lost its impact. I don't feel as threatened by it as I say I maybe did, you know, even all the way up until maybe Ursula's return as a mechanic.
Okay, so hear me out, right? Maui Half Shark, good card. Recurs actions, love it, awesome. We've seen this before with Emerald Steel, didn't work quite right. Lady Tremaine, not good. The green Lady Tremaine, the red one's also not good, but the green one, no. So Ruby Steel, Maui Half Shark, a Whole New World. We stack the deck like Vince style, like 72 cards or whatever. We Whole New World. We Maui Shark, get the Whole New World back. We Whole New World again, and we just mill them. Ruby Steel mill. How come no one's ever thought of this already? I mean, Maui Half Shark clearly is the reaction recursion that Whole New World mill really wanted, and I think I'm building that list as soon as this podcast is over, and I'm gonna hopefully pull the combo off and make Kirsten cry.
What's that card? What's the card? What's that card in set 1 that allows you to? It's a Ruby card and allows you to ready an exerted character. Like shield.
Oh, LeFou, yeah, fan the flames. Fan the
flames. Yeah, both of those.
So you're saying you
yeah,
you fan the flames your Maui and then immediately sing the Whole New World again?
But you don't get it back unless you challenge with Maui, right?
So, well, you challenge with Maui, fan the flames, sing the Whole New World with the Maui. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. We're cooking here for sure.
Live here, you've heard.
Gotta get that 4-cost Robin Hood Quester too. So every time he quests for free. 2. Yeah, you get an action for free off the top. Or you look at 4 cards off the top and play an action for free. But I think it's got to be
So
4 cost or less. So it can't be Whole New World. Or it might be 5. I don't remember.
Is it 4 cost?
I think it's
no. I thought it was 6 cost. I thought
It might be. I think
Pirate's
it's
Life
6
can
cost.
come off the top. Pirate's Life can come off
think
the
so.
top with that.
I got it. Hold on.
Oh, it
Or-
is 6 cost or less. Yeah.
6 cost.
Wow.
Okay. So Robin Hood quests, whole new world off the top, goes in your discard. You get a LeFou off the 7 new card, or your Fan the Flames, right? Maui Shark challenges, whole new world back, Fan the Flames, whole new world again with Maui Shark. Boom.
Get
You
lore
just-
from Maui for doing 2 actions.
Yup, you've gotten 2 lore off of that, and you've just cycled 14 cards out of your opponent's deck. Okay, we're cooking here. We're cooking
We've
for
gone
sure.
off the rails.
I'm sorry. We said this was a blurple conversation, but we've just solved the meta. Okay, it's Ruby Steel mill deck for sure, coming in hot.
Ruby Steel Mill.
Honestly-
That's wild. I honestly, I bet that'd be even if it's not a successful deck, I bet that'd be a
fun.
fun deck to play.
And I'm gonna try and pull this back towards real, actual meta talk in that by saying Steel has some incredibly great value cards. Like Steel, the cards may not be like the best, but they're I say great value. That's like the Walmart, like white label brand or whatever. These are all just like, bangers that you're like, you know what? Why would I be paying for the expensive version? You got Lawrence and Pluto and Calhoun and Smee, and there's so many of these great Steel cards that that's what makes Amber Steel, the aggro version, in my opinion, just so
Gantu.
so oppressive.
Oh,
Is that
hell.
like, I mean, a 4/4 for 3 that quests for 2 in Lawrence is insane. And you're like, oh, well, when he gets damaged, he, loses that. I don't care. You've got to deal with a 4/4 at least once until you can, take it out for free or something. Same with that Pluto comes around, and, Smee's a great card.
all these
Yeah.
freaking characters that are like, oh, that's a 0/4. No, it's not. That's a 1/5. No, it's not.
Even Food Fighter Mickey Mouse, right? The 1-drop. 1/2 with resist 1. Vince has got to love this card. It's got resist, right? So that card, I really want to fit that into every Steel list I play because it dodges that turn 1 Cindy, turn 2 sing a song with Cindy and take out whatever your 1-drop is. That's why Diablo, I think, has great value, and anything that can dodge these Cindy singing a song is just so devastating right now. That
If you
being
can
able to
find her.
dodge that.
I played that today
Look.
against Ron, his Diggy deck, and I could not find Cinderella one time for turn 1. I'm like, come on, man.
Skill issue. I don't know what to tell you. All right, this is it's like the Emerald Steel version. It's like what's that mean? It's like when my opponent plays turn 1 Diablo, turn 2 shift Diablo, sing Storm, play Cove, move Diablo to Cove, and you're just like, bruh.
Yeah.
Like that happens every time. I can't tell you how many times I've played against Kirsten, and like we played the other day, and she got 2 daisies, 3 Lilos, and I was like, seriously, like how am I supposed to play this game? Like this isn't even fun. Like why? And then we play again. She has like 3 daisies and 2 Lilos, and I'm like, who is shuffling your deck here? Like this is I want to judge right now, and we're just like,
Daisy is just a hard card to still remove
yeah.
early in
Yep.
the game, and it's like, man, I don't have an answer to this until like turn 3
She's-
at best.
She gives the whole like Daisy like, oh, but I'm giving you cards. Shut up. I don't care. These cards don't help me. Get out of
Yeah.
here. Like,
Well, it doesn't. It's also, it depends on the deck you're playing too. It's like I was playing against Brad when I was playing, I think, Sapphire Ruby, and it's like,
yeah, you're
I,
cooked.
like item bottom of the deck, item bottom of the
brawl,
deck,
bottom of the
action,
deck.
bottom of the deck. It's like no.
See ya. See ya.
Yeah, it's
Like,
really good
so
against those lists.
I
So
was playing
you
Ron's
get
Diggy
no
deck.
value.
Ron was playing my Blurple, and I was playing his Diggy deck, and I have 4 actions. I guess I have 8 with Sale. I keep saying 4. But my daisies just kept hitting the friends on the other side, and I'm like, bro, I'm so sorry. Like, it's that daisy luck is real. Is real.
Man, Sucks. It
And-
sucks. That's
and
such a
but-
hard card to move.
And honestly, even when they give you a character, you're like she, yeah, I'll play playing red blue, and she'll quest Daisy, and I'll flip over like a big Sisu, and she'll be like, "Oh no." It don't matter. She still wins. I'm like 4 turns from this. Like,
Yeah.
you talking about? You're like 18 lore already. Like, it's a, and then even a Fox. There are a few cards that are really punishing to flip over. I guess maybe Fox in certain scenarios is one of them, if you don't already have one. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Is always going to be one, right?
Daisy is really rough, and especially because against Ruby decks, like Brawl is one of the best ways to remove a Daisy, and it is, it's bottomed by a Daisy. It just goes right to the bottom of the deck, and it's not great. So,
But I mean, and you've also got Calhoun in that deck.
yeah,
You've also got Piglet, which
Piglet's a bad card. I'm
Yeah,
Zach,
it didn't feel
I'm more
good.
towards Zach Bivens' side on this. I honestly, Mr. Arrow, Vince should love this one as well because he has resist. It's not great against Ruby because of the 1 strength, but neither is Piglet, right? Like, Piglet dies to Brawl just the same as Mr. Arrow dies to it. You got the little Sisu in the Ruby Sapphire, I guess, but Piglet just gets removed so easily, and threatening 3 lore is.
It can't.
You know where Piglet is good is my Poo Pirate deck. Just want to shout that out.
Bruh.
All right,
Mr. Arrow, is he inkable?
Yes,
I
he's
don't-
inkable.
yeah,
2
yeah.
cost,
Yeah.
1/2, resist 1, inkable, quest for 2.
I think in the
I will say, I'm telling you, resist is where it's at. I know we haven't
resist
seen
is
it yet,
good. Yeah,
but it's where it's at.
yeah. Mr. Arrow made I think a triple appearance in the Lorcanaville and Dick Burns showdown the past weekend, where I think I watched the back end of that stream because I missed it again, just busy weekend, and I think Dick got 3 of the Mr. Arrows down, but the game was already lost, and they were all just kind of chuckling about it.
Yeah.
But
That went to game 3 though. That was a really
did.
good one. I was rooting for our pal DB.
sure,
I was rooting for him. I told him he needs to do Dick Burns questing New Year's Eve instead of Dick Clark's rocking New Year's Eve. He needs to do like a New Year's Eve show every year.
I love that.
He said maybe next year. So
Maybe next year, or he'll call out some bad stores again. He's had some big call outs on his channel.
look, he might be bad for the TFM brand, as he admits, but he's great for content. I love.
He's
him.
fantastic.
He's so fun. Great.
I
met
told
in
him the other.
Seattle.
I told him because he said I met you guys in Seattle, and you guys were really cool. And I was like, I was actually jealous of you and Kirsten getting to meet him. I think I saw him from afar, but I'm not the kind of guy that like walk up to somebody like, hey, how you doing, man? What's up? Him and Dan both. I've been wanting to say hi to for 3 DLCs now, and I just I don't do it. I'm a big chicken, which is weird.
He's an easy one to spot because of the blue hair.
Blue hair.
But,
Yep, that's why I knew it was him.
Right.
I thought it was
Great.
great. The commentators called him out when he was using his TFM ink tokens instead of like putting his cards there or whatever. He was I think Luke said, fun fact, every TFM ink token that he's using is signed by Dick Burns himself, and it's probably true because he had a bunch of them signed and he gave one to me, so I've got one. So it's probably his extras that are all signed by himself. So it is truly a his move to be playing ink tokens signed by himself.
Well,
It's
listen,
great.
we'll have to join that club. We'll have to have the Rules of Villainy ink tokens signed
Coming
by
soon,
all of us.
available to our Patreon members.
Eventually, that's not going to be a joke.
Send us a self-addressed stamped envelope to our PO box, and we'll return
Not
you a playset of ink tokens signed by Rules of. And our PO box can be found on our highest tier of our Patreon. Just like a whole trail of Easter eggs.
Man, this show is going off the rails. This is what
It
happens.
is.
when
It's
our
our first
one back.
First one,
back.
January 1st,
It's the
baby.
new year.
Welcome.
New year, new villains.
All right. Well, that's it for our main segment, and we're going to move on to our villain of the week. Brad, take it away.
All right, new year, but the same apologies to Gantu because today's villain of the week is from set 4, Ursula's Return. It is a Pirate's Life, a 6-cost inkable uncommon card in Ruby, which is an action and song. Sing together ability in which each opponent loses 2 lore and you gain 2 lore. The flavor text, give me a career as a buccaneer. Art by Valentina Graziuso. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I apologize. This card, paired especially with Maui, our villain of the week in our last episode, is a nightmare. It's in red blue primarily. I've seen it. I think did you have it in RA this past week?
No, I
Vince?
don't play it in RA, but
Okay.
I do have it in my Sapphire Steel deck.
And what?
I mean, sorry,
Ruby
Sapphire.
Yeah.
Judge,
It is,
Judge.
yeah.
He's got
So-
a Pirate's Life and his Sapphire Steel list.
It
He tried to Maui my evasive character. I need a judge over here.
It's been
DQ.
around since set 4. The sing together mechanic, you can use up to whatever cost of characters that equal up to 6 or more to sing it. But you don't need to, because in a Sapphire Ruby deck, you have your Medusas. Some of you have your Tremaines. You have your Maui Sharks, and and with Maui out on board, you get an extra lore from that swing, and that swing saves you the game. I have spent so many matches against Red Blue where I'm coasting along, doing everything I can to maintain board state with my Blurple, bouncing what I can, controlling the board, getting up to 16, sometimes 18, and then suddenly we're in Pirate's Life territory where Medusa comes out, she'll take care of something on my board, then the next turn she'll sing it, and then I'm down 2, they go up 3, Shark comes out, and just a never-ending cycle, because once that Shark is on board, if you can't immediately deal with it, he's just going to challenge into something on your board and get that song back, and then you're losing 2 more lore, and they're gaining 3, and the game swings so quickly that you feel so helpless. And for weeks now, with the Shark and that song, I have been reeling in just that matchup because it is impossible for me to counter. And I shouldn't say impossible, but it is very difficult for me to get a hold back of that particular game once they start singing that pirate song.
100%.
You know, you gotta the key I think that you really talked on is that it does something that this game has needed and is effective, which is buy you time, right? So when you're like a Ruby, this is true in like older versions of Ruby Amethyst, when you're trying to like control the board and stuff, it's like, okay, it's fine letting my opponent to maybe get to 12 lore, 14 lore maybe, but then I can control the board and then I can basically win the game. But if they've got to like 16 lore, it's like, okay, now there's no shot, right? Like, because then they could have instant lore effects that could really just rip the game from me. And that's true. That same kind of game state works in Ruby Sapphire as well. And so when you have this opportunity that not only does this card rip 2 lore from you, buys me time in the game to play, you know, to set up my control, I also gain 2 lore from it and stuff. So it's like, honestly, like three with Shark, right? Yeah, if you're pairing it with Shark.
Insane. And the fact that he can sing it. Ugh.
But honestly, I mean, yeah, he can sing it, and there's situations where I think you'd want that. But honestly, like, you really want the opportunity to like recur that back from him. So if you can sing it with something else, or even using its sing together ability, you know, it's like this is a great option when it's like you have like a, you know, a TPO or something else on board, you know, that can get you the 6, like you got a
Grammatala and a TPO.
Grammatala and stuff. You can sing it together and stuff.
I've never seen it sung together. I'll just say
you don't need to. You don't need to.
I mean, yeah,
it has wrecked me many times, but I've never seen it sung together.
I don't think you need to sing it together. I'm just saying that the fact you can makes it an added bonus.
Yeah.
Particularly, I don't think you need to in that deck because, as Brad listed out, there are like numerous cards in that deck that can just outright one shot.
Tamatoa, Tremaines, Medusa, Maui,
Sisu,
and you also have the big dragon, Maldragon, can also sing it as well. So most of your decent characters can sing it, and I feel like even to expand on what Vince was saying, like, not even just like that, like 14, 16 lore, like you have a chance. I have been in games where they're at 19 lore, they're at 18 lore. They are going to win, and a Pirate's Life cancels out a 2 lore quester that they have. So this, in essence, I mean, it's not great. It buys you 1 turn. But if you think about it, if they have like a Lilo on board and they're at 18 and you have, and you pull a Medusa, you save yourself. But if you pull Pirate's Life, you also buy yourself 1 turn, right? It's a 6 cost that reduces them by 2 lore and, essentially cancels out a 2 lore quester. So it's not removal, but it works very similar to it. My biggest complaint is that like the Maui Half Shark and the Pirate's Life is it's like this snowball that is just like, if you can push it off the cliff, it's just an avalanche and it's over and the game's over and you kind of win. But if you don't, if they can stop, I think Brad said it, it's a must answer, right? But if they can answer it, because Maui Half Shark had no enter the board effect, you really lose a lot of tempo and you can be just like shut down. So maybe it brings us back to our previous conversation about Blurple, something like a Hades or a Let It Go to immediately answer this Maui Half Shark. Or even in my testing, I've there was one time I believe I was playing against Ryan McRib, as he'll call himself, friend of the podcast. He was playing the burn, the Ruby Amethyst burn version of this list, and he played the Maui Half Shark. I was playing Emerald Amethyst at the time, and I realized this Half Shark has to go, or I'm done for, right? He I can't quest anymore, basically. So we Elsa'd, and we sent 2 Elsas and like a genie into the, I gave up half my board plus some into this Maui Half Shark, but it stopped his humongous snowball from just taking over the game. So, Pirate's Life is a great card. Maui Half Shark kind of makes it an even better card. But honestly, even if Maui Half Shark is not as great as potentially people are saying it is, which is what I'm sort of questioning here. Maui Half Shark not the best. Pirate's Life is still buys you that, Goat comes down and they go to 19 up, game's over. Nothing you can do. You got to win this turn. Nah, we got Pirate's Life here. We're good.
But I think also what helped though in certain scenarios, which is like really honestly, we're really only seeing this card with the exception of some Ruby Amethyst decks. I think we're really mostly seeing this in red blue, which I ultimately like. In a position where you're playing a card like this, you're probably at 7, 8 ink. You sing this. Now you still have 8. Now you've advanced your win state, reduced their win state, and then you can now play, whatever you want. You want to play Tamatoa down and then recur your, pops. You could just, start flooding the board out. I mean, some of this depends on what your opponent is playing, right? To how much risk you want to put, but you can really start to ramp to go wider because of the ability that you can, sing this, right? Like this would be less good, probably unplayable if it were not a song, right? Like if this were just an action, I think you'd be like, that's 6 resources to do this effect. Not great. The fact that you can sing this and then do other things with your resources, so much better in my mind.
Absolutely, because something like a Medusa, before a lot of times in Ruby Sapphire, you'd be playing a Medusa to oust one of their characters, and then you'd be singing something like How Far I'll Go with it, right? Which is 2 ink less efficient than singing something like Pirate's Life. So, we kind of circle back to that fact that so many of your characters can sing this card and get value out of it. I do want to say, though, you say it's only run in Ruby Sapphire, but I do think there's value to, like you said, singing Pirate's Life, then playing LeFou on your character, and then attacking, and then Ruby, Steel,
Yes.
Mill. Pirate's Life is
Yes,
definitely an
yes,
inclusion
yes,
in that
yes.
card. Okay, so we've
I
got
definitely
4
think
Maui
Ruby
Sharks.
Steel is a potential option for
Absolutely.
this.
Okay. Just want to make
I'm
sure
just-
that people know.
I'm just saying right now we're not seeing it in any other decks as of right now.
We just thought of it.
I know,
That's
I
why
know,
we're
I
not
know.
seeing it, because
I'm-
it's so new.
I've been quietly cooking a deck with it. You mentioned earlier, Andy, that cooking is in concepts of it, but not actually building it. Where you haven't ever seen it sing. Well, first let's start with the fact that it took Maui Shark to get this card played, right? I'm sitting here wondering why this card hasn't been a 1 or 2 of in Ruby Sapphire all along, because you already had all the 6 costs to sing it. Medusa singing How Far I'll Go, you really don't need. You're really doing that for the draw at that point, right? You don't really need the ramp so much as you could dictate the win condition more with this here.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, it's kind of funny that this card hasn't seen any play that
I
we
think
know
I
of
can
until.
answer that though, Brad, which is that I think it's the fact that as we've talked kind of with Azurite Sea coming into the meta, the game is a lot faster. And so a deck like Ruby Sapphire needs to slow the game down, and Pirate's Life is the answer to that. And so beforehand, it wasn't necessary to slow the game down, like because Ruby Sapphire could answer those and control them. And so it was just another slot. It was kind of like a win more condition previously, but now it's like, actually, we need to slow the game down. How do I slow the game down? Pirate's Life.
And
That's a good answer.
And the fact that Shark exists, not only does it give you 3 lore on Pirate's Life instead of 2 because of its ability, but the recursion means that you can fit Pirate's Life into your list. I think that was another big problem, is that card is only good against that one scenario where you're stuck with a goat and you need to make them lose lore in order to be able to stay in this game. But now you can run just 1 or 2. I mean, I think the Ruby Sapphire list I'm running has 1. Maybe a better number is 2, but I take it and I can use it and put it in my discard, and it's fine there because I have the Maui Shark to recur it. So
that makes sense.
Both of those things I think all 3 of those things have sort of put it into more value, basically.
Sure. And just to follow up on what I was saying about the deck I was cooking was we haven't seen it ever sang together because we haven't needed to. But imagine Big Ursula, the good one, singing it twice.
Oh, double sing, green, red.
Wouldn't that be insane? Yeah.
That'd be pretty good. You get an 8 lore swing at this point.
Yeah.
That's
wild,
another list we
right?
can cook. That's another list.
Yeah, so I got concepts of that together because I like the You Came Back, I like the Robin Hood and the Shark, and then all the actions that you can dig for. And I was like, wow, if you put Ursula in here and throw Pirate's Life in there, like that's so much lore that's going up and down. That if you can pull it off, I don't know.
Yeah. Even if you couldn't do that in a competitive single player deck, I wonder how useful that would be in a multiplayer deck.
Each opponent loses 2 lore, although you only gain 2. It'd be nice if it said for each lore lost you gain that many. Oh man.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest problem with Emerald Ruby that you're talking about there is that both the double singer Ursula, I don't want to say big Ursula because Vince will get mad at me. There's a bigger one than that one.
Oh, I didn't care.
But the problem with double singer Ursula and Maui Shark is both of them are those cards that are like so great when they get their ability off, but so bad when they don't, right? Like I guess I shouldn't say so bad, but they have no ETB. So Emerald Steel previous versions, when you play that Ursula, if it doesn't survive, that's just like such negative tempo. And I think the same is true about Maui Half Shark. If you're playing against Maui Half Shark and it comes down and you have the option to remove it immediately, try it. I don't want to guarantee that that's the best thing you should do, but I feel like that's the best thing to do, to just stop it, because once the snowball gets going, you're done for. So both of those cards, no ETB, your opponent removes them, big loss, big tempo loss. So putting them both in the same deck, you run that risk of like, okay, 3, I play my Ursula, gone. Okay, 6, I play my Maui Shark, gone. And you're like, oh my gosh, I just lost all tempo.
For those that are listening, the Ursula he's talking about is the deceiver of all. I just want to
I said double
make
sing.
sure
I said double sing.
make
Yeah.
sure it's
But yeah.
sure it's clear for everybody.
Yes. The
There's
three
three
cost
big
Ursula
Ursulas.
like I am.
It's crazy. Yeah.
3 cost inkable 2/3 double sing ability.
Very pretty.
All right.
card.
Any last thoughts?
Nope.
No.
I don't want to see this card ever again. That's my last thought.
Dodge
you.
Ruby Sapphire.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you're joining us on audio, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
And if you're joining us on YouTube, which if you're not, I really feel like you should be. We have a lot of fun over here. Be sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell so you're notified of our next episode.
You can help us continue plotting our devious plans on social media. We're on Instagram, Blue Sky, and the platform formerly known as Twitter @Rules of Villainy. Please also join us on our Discord as well with the link below.
Until next week, stay safe, fellow villains. Be wary of wannabe heroes who want to disrupt your villainous plans. And as always, remember the rules of villainy.